And we still ISO to the end. Still the same ones. Big up. You already know.
Y'all to Trinity, you don't know. Let's get it.
We still the same ones. When it come to chats, we don't take none. Cheers. Badman Jamaican. Trinity global sensation. Mobbing till the day come, yeah, till the day come. Red, white, black flag, daddy gon' shake some. Green, yellow, black flag, rude gal shake some. We don't want no drama in this, so don't make none. Mobbing till the day come, yeah, till the day come. And the day came, still thumbing through the night, chance of light rain. I guess I really gotta show you about this Trinity King. I guess this is how it is when you from the island, man. So I took a flight to Tobago, FOG down. Man's on the ends, Londonville to the C-town. Remo with a schema and a beamer with the T down. And she wanna know me, tell me, baby, what you need now? A little buddy. Bubble up your pop, mix the curry, go dummy. Whole fam, ice on no funny. From the Ville to the Ville, shout out Teddy, that's a tuggy. Still the same ones. When it come to chats, we don't take none. Cheers. Badman Jamaican. Trinity global sensation. Mobbing till the day come, yeah, till the day come. Red, white, black flag, daddy gon' shake some. Green, yellow, black flag, rude gal shake some. We don't want no drama in this, so don't make none. Mobbing till the day come, yeah, till the day come.
Say they want smoke when we see them, they don't say none. Yeah, they
Morning guys, welcome to another adventure here in my home country, Latvia, in the city of Riga. And I'm here in an absolutely stunning example of the 90s German car industry, the BMW E34 540, the V8. And we're here to find out and answer one question. Is the BMW E34 the last remaining 90s German car industry icon that is still available for purchase, at least here in Europe? E34 was one of the most dangerous cars in the 90s because you knew if some guys with short haircuts in a tracksuits, in a leather jackets were coming for you in an E34, most likely you had up something real bad. It was very popular also in a sense because it had quite range of engines, I think 9 to be specific. And this was also the first 5 series that actually had V8 placed in it, and as this is also the car what we're driving today, 540 with the V8 engine, which from the MB series is one of the most famous engines that BMW has ever produced. And returning back to the 90s, trunk size, I don't know the liters, but I clearly know that 2 able-bodied males could fit there. Whether dead or alive, that's a completely different question. And of course the interior, the size of interior and the detailing of interior, you had quite a lot of options like here when it comes to individual detailing. But what's important, you could fit 4 to 5 grown-ups, mainly guys in the tracksuits and in a leather jackets with very simple facial expressions that were off to their day-to-day to collect the dues from random businessmen. With the E30 already at this stage being a cult car, there is very little left from the BMW 90s lineup that is still available on the market. Currently, E30s, whether you're looking in Europe, whether you're looking in the US, they can range from 10,000 euros if it's a German pensioners bar fight, up to 250,000 euros. That has been one of the latest bring a trailer auctions for BMW M3 Evo model in a very specific red color. So that particular series of 90s BMWs, of course, you can by this time exclude from the list what you can reasonably find on the market. With the E36 third series also becoming somewhat of an icon in a good and sometimes not in a very good sense, because it's often being killed in drift builds, it's often being abused in rat rod builds. Availability of those cars is also limited. Of course, then you have the E32 7 series, which is an absolutely beautiful car. I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite BMWs, and I hope I have a chance to do some review on it. But it's a completely different class, it's a completely different cost when it comes to it, and it's more of a competitor to the Mercedes-Benz SW140. Of course, the classic 850, it's a phenomenal car, but as we know, the availability of them is even scarcer. And Then you have left the E39, which is, I think, a little bit too young at the moment to be a true classic, unless I think we talk about the M5 or the 4.4 engines. And then you really have a sweet spot left. And if you ask me, the sweet spot for this case is the BMW E34, and particularly 540 here, or ultimately M5. Even when looking beyond BMW and the German 90s icons as such, there is very little left. Whether it's W124, Mercedes-Benz E400 or E500, there is literally close to non-availability, at least here in Europe, and they can start from 40-50 grand. RS2 Audi, I'm not even touching that subject. UR Quattro, which is, you could consider early 90s icon, late 80s, because it was produced until 91, 92. That is a collector's edition. So for me, it's very little that you could still consider as an iconic German car and still have it available. So if you think otherwise, let me know down in the comments. I'm more than happy to hear. What do you still think isn't available in European or US markets when it comes to the 90s and the classic 90s German icons? And I came to Latvia in the middle of summer. It's quite humid, quite hot, and I have to be honest with you guys, even though this E34 has the historical quality mark from the Motor Museum of Riga, it's equal to the German H number plate markings, so it means it's quite good restored in a pristine condition and original condition as it has to be. It doesn't have any klima. Technically it has, but it requires 1.8 kilograms of freon for the klima to function, and it's quite an expensive exercise. So we're rolling with no klima today, and it's very humid, and you know, I'm sweating as hell. The windows are a little bit sweaty, but of course for me it gives the ultimate 90s experience, 90s vibes, as I guess it's supposed to be with the cars like this. For me personally, and I think for many others, at least here in Europe and Central Asia and Russia, the renaissance of E34s really started in the early 2010s by the famous video of zaRRubin with Giorgi Tevzadze, rest in peace to one of the greatest ones, drifting the red and purple E34 M5s in Tbilisi. 10 years later, or more than 10 years later, there's very few automotive videos that have ever come close to that one. And I think for many, for me definitely, that was maybe a signal that E34 is something more than a 518 touring used for practical countryside jobs like it used to be in the 90s, and it was a very practical car. I think we spoke about that in my M3 touring video. It is unbelievable. What? Oh, the V8. The V8 on the Autobahn is crazy. If you switch in a S position, like the sports mode, you come from the absolutely leisurely, you know, luxury saloon, you know, V8, and in the 90s probably a financist was driving through the Bavaria. But if you want to go I mean, with the Porsche, and you know, a small remark, I haven't, you know, felt the kick down from 996 with the PDK and everything. You know, it's seamless. This, we need to move some cars, but one thing I don't want to look at is, of course, the fuel consumption. You know, goes straight north, but the emotions, what you can have from somewhat simple car, really, you know, it's complicated Lego construction, if you ask me. You know, the resource of the engine, of the gearbox, of the suspension. You know, 300k, 400k, 500k, maybe even more. Of course, like the car we're having, which is an ultimate restoration goal, it's completely different. You have everything rebuilt. But if I shift a little bit and the left, leave a little bit space for the engine to go from 2k to immediately 5k, 6k, 7k. Unbelievable. I'm somewhat speechless. Of course, you know, the torque and the pull. This is not X-Drive. This is not M3, M4, G80s. It's not M5. It's completely, you know, different era. But the soul, the noise, the smell when you get out of the car, it is, if you ask me, this is what little boys dream of, including myself. So I'm super thankful for having this chance back in my hometown, back in my home country, to drive one of the all-time favorite cars that I have ever had, and the emotions that it gives, it's completely out of your ordinary. Me cruising on outskirts of Riga neighborhoods and having some Soviet block housing in the rear view, driving the ultimate 540 BMW E34 in absolutely pristine condition. The initial question still remains: is BMW E34 one of the last remaining youngtimers available in Europe and beyond that are truly an embodiment of one of the, if not the greatest, automotive timelines ever, the 90s? The short answer is yes, absolutely. It has the design, it has the engine lineup, it has still availability of spare parts, both in the US, both in Europe. But I already noticed that it's much more rarer than it was 5 to 10 years ago. I mean, finding an example below 10,000 euros that doesn't require an immediate attention is becoming quite hard at this stage. And if you're looking for 540, if you're looking for M5, you really have to start looking already in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, thousands of euros, depending of course on the condition of the car. So if you're looking for the true embodiment of the greatest era of automotive industry beyond Germany, I would say even worldwide, I think this is one of the last chances to jump in the last wagon of owning an ultimate 90s nostalgia car. Until next time.